We have with us Alicia Powe, and she's come on to talk about a number of issues from the Bill Cosby verdict, what we were talking about earlier in the show, to the what's going on in Hollywood in the entertainment industry with Kanye West and a number of people coming out against him because he stated his support for Donald Trump. Alicia Powe, welcome back to the Hagman Report.
Hi, thanks for having me back. Oh my gosh, today was just epic with Diamond and Silk testifying before Congress. I believe it was Congressman Steve King and Jim Ha from the Gateway Pundit that organized this whole event on Capitol Hill today. And I have never in my entire time following politics and being a conservative activist and now a journalist see conservatives who are African American, but besides their race or skin color, they are just brazenly speaking out and echoing the sentiment that we all desperately feel about just everything, from calling the Congressional Black Caucus out, essentially Sheila Jackson Lee and Hank Johnson from Georgia out on their racism and their hypocrisy. And it was just a breath of fresh air. Diamond and Silk have been a breath of fresh air from the beginning, since I first saw their videos circling the web during the election. And I'm so grateful that there's people out here with enough courage to sit here. And I honestly feel like they have more chutzpah than President Trump does to some degree, the way that they dealt with how they're trying to frame them. And if you look at the headlines coming out of their testimony, it's all that they lied. I actually took note of the headlines. Slate says Diamond and Silk testified before Congress and yelled at a bunch of people. Right? They were defending themselves amid all these allegations. Oh, you took money from the Trump campaign. You're lying about it. Well, actually, like you said, they were getting reimbursed for flying to a campaign event, and the Trump campaign reimbursed them. But that's still the headlines that stand up there today. I don't see the conservative news coverage of that event enough, or it's not the stuff that's coming up in the top of the Google search engine. I don't see it in the top of Breitbart headlines. But I think this is such major news because we see this awakening, or we see people of color, Black conservatives, Black Americans, who are waking up to the Jedi mind trick that the Democrats have successfully embedded in our culture. It's so deep-seated and so deep-rooted already. It's one of the things that drove me to become a conservative activist and a journalist, is the fact that people think the Republicans are racist, Trump's are racist, they're the party of Jim Crow and segregation. And you see Candace Owens speaking out, right? She's made notoriety and the things we've all been saying for years, which is that the Democrats have successfully got this monolithic vote of the Black community. And it's not really like you can blame the people so much when there's every facet of society echoing the same propaganda of Republicans are synonymous with racism, and they just scrub out all of history. They would burn the history books along with the Confederate monuments if they could, because the fact is, if you really look in any history book chapter to chapter, unless it's some left-leaning political scientists trying to rewrite history, Republicans have been on the side of civil rights all throughout history. There was never a two-party switch. I don't even talk about this anymore. There's a lot of issues to cover every day as a journalist, but this is old news for me. I've been talking this talk for my entire adulthood once I stopped being a liberal myself by default. So what's happening right now is an opportunity for a great awakening with Kanye West and with Diamond and Silk. And unfortunately, I feel like, okay, with Bill Cosby, there's no more, he's so iconic in American culture. There's no one that presented an African-American family but in a better image than Bill Cosby did. We all grew up watching The Cosby Show, and we don't know what happened 30, 40 years ago. But once again, these allegations that we see from all over the Me Too movement are 30, 40, 50 years ago. And why not come forward 40, 50 years ago? But they happen to all come forward and this multitude of women and bombard Bill Cosby with these sexual assault allegations as soon as he was speaking to the Black community about not having saggy pants. to stop having fatherless households and be a family and have a family unit. Like we saw the Black community prospering in the 1950s before it got galvanized by the socialist left. So I'm really just fired up about the opportunity that awaits if the GOP seizes it. And the fact that I didn't see this during the Bush years. I didn't see this when I was in New York and in college fighting and defending President Bush's record on PEPFAR and prisoners, the compassionate conservative programs like prisoner reentry and so many different programs that Bush deliberately designed to benefit the inner communities and the Black community.
Alicia Powe on fire. And I'm telling you, it's a well-deserved, well-directed fire indeed. Wow. What she said. How's that?
Well, Alicia, I gotta, the whole thing with the Cosby situation that gets me is, one, we see the people who are behind this Me Too movement, and we know that it's not genuine. These people are not coming from a place of concern. They don't want, these people to heal. If anything, the people, especially in Hollywood, have done any and everything that they can to cover this kind of behavior up. And now they, because a few people have come out and spoke out against it, they want to jump on the bandwagon or appear that, they're not one of the monsters that they're portraying other people to be. But I don't think the majority of the American people buy it. And then with Bill Cosby, you have to ask yourself why. Why now? If he was doing this in the end of his career, he's been doing this throughout his whole career, is my assumption. And why now? And that's my big question. And this whole Me Too movement is a problem. And do you think we're going to see more of these actual court convictions based on Me Too movement accusations?
I mean, they nailed Cosby, right? Whether the allegations are true or not, we'll never know. We're not the women who were there when he allegedly gave them drugs and sexually assaulted them. But what kind of integrity do you have when you're sitting and seeing Bill Cosby promoting himself as a family man on the Cosby Show for decades and being the epitome of the American family, the American Black family, which has fallen apart because of liberal policies? And you just sit there and it's fine. But as soon as he goes out and he's actually saying to people in large crowds, pull up your pants, stop being gangsters, stop glorifying criminals, stop voting Democrat, is when his character is assassinated and he's 80 years old and he's going to spend the rest of his life in jail. Albeit, if he did sexually harass all these 30, 40, 50 women, there needs to be accountability, and I'm sorry it all ends that way. But we saw them do the same thing to President Trump. We see them bandwagoning. I was mocking the fact that when we saw Megyn Kelly and Andrea Tantaros and Gretchen Carlson, after they hosted Bill O'Reilly's show for the last 10 years, come out and say, well, he sexually harassed me. I was joking about the fact that they're all saying, oh, me too, I'm sexually harassed too, about a year ago. And then 6 months later, it's a Me Too movement.
Yeah, I remember that.
It's flabbergasting how the left uses its propaganda technique.
No, I remember that, and you make great points, especially, the people hosting Bill O'Reilly's show, and then it seems like for some sort of personal gain, they come out and, when the timing is opportune for them. And that's the whole problem with this, and you said it right. It wasn't until Bill Cosby started to speak out and try to make a difference. And that's my question. Do you think
against abortion?
Yeah. And do you think that these people are given a pass until they go against the grain or until they, upset the power structure? Look at Kanye West. He's coming out and saying that he doesn't even agree with President Trump, just that he loves him as a person and as a brother. And now they're saying he's mentally unstable, and they're bringing all this mental health stuff into it and trying to throw him under the bus. Is it just you go against us, then we're gonna you're done?
Yeah, essentially, because the Democrats are dependent. Literally, if you look at the numbers, if they don't have 90% plus of African Americans voting for them, then they don't win elections anymore. So their entire campaign structure and strategy is based off of race baiting. And they have no shame about it. If you look at the way they treated Diamond and Silk today, these so-called leaders of civil rights, Sheila Jackson Lee and Hank Johnson, and members of the Congressional Black Caucus, it's deplorable. They're sitting there basically demeaning these women simply because they agree, because they're conservative. Because if you're conservative in this day and age, then you're a racist, right? I'm so tired of it that I don't even talk about the race issue anymore. But apparently, it's an issue that's just boiling under the surface, and we all need to talk about it. I mean, you can label me as whatever you want. I don't talk about it. I don't like being labeled. I'm half Cuban, black, white. I'm Cuban, black, white, Chinese, Indian, and Irish, right? But I'm now going to be categorized as a black conservative, and whatever. It doesn't matter. I want America and the United States and the planet to transcend this racism disease that has been plaguing humanity from the beginning of time. And we're at a cusp right now where that's possible. But it's really up to the Trump administration and GOP leadership and more journalists and more celebrities to stop being cowards and stop being tepid and aggressively fight the war that we actually are fighting. There's a civil war all the time ongoing. And people get exhausted with talking about the race issue, but it's the underlying issue that will be the determining factor of if the Republican Party exists in the next 5 to 10 years in the near future in every election. Because if Hillary Clinton had won, we'd be who knows where the United States and global relations would be right now. But the way that her strategy for winning, as we started in the campaign, is parading Black Lives Matter out. I mean, you still have the Black community dealing with so many issues because they are loyal to the slave master party. They're loyal to the segregationist socialist secession party, the Democrat Party, and they want to erase history. But the fact is the two parties never switched, and the Democrats are still voting for the KKK party. And that is why we see lots of African Americans in housing projects and over the number and food stamps, and we see the culture basically self-destructing because people need to wake up and start thinking for themselves, which requires a lot of work. Because if you sit here and you just, maybe you're specialized in medicine, maybe you're specialized in being a rock star, so you're not spending that time reading the history or following the news cycle every day to see how everything spins to basically Jedi mind trick us. And once this happens, there's tremendous ramifications. I mean, if we can win this civil war at home, where we're constantly battling these race relations, and we were to have like the celebrities in the Hollywood on the conservative, pro-American, pro-freedom side, we could easily win a war against North Korea. You could easily win the hearts and minds of the people in Iraq and Afghanistan, because like George Bush said lots of times, freedom is innate to the human soul. People will fight for it, but they believe the propaganda of the celebrities, because the celebrities in Hollywood and musicians, the pop culture has more power than the White House. It has more power than politicians. And they're all working together, the leftist politicians and the Hollywood leftists, to galvanize the culture and galvanize the country. And we really need aggressive measures to defeat it all.
And one of the key points that you bring up is something that I found probably the easiest way to do this is to go on YouTube, and there's a Prager University video, the history of the Democratic Party, and maybe it's about 5.5 minutes. But as you talked about, they like to talk about a history of they switched, because the Democratic Party has been the party of slavery and against the civil rights, and they try to reframe history as though that they were on the side of freedom. They were fighting for pro-civil rights, when that is not the case. And I know that might not seem relevant to today, but if you want some good insight into that, there's some great videos on YouTube, and I would recommend the history of the Democratic Party from Prager University as one of those. But Alicia, this is what they do when they can't win an argument, when they don't have the facts or the evidence on their side in an argument or debate. I've seen it on CNN 1,000 times. They instantly throw the race angle in there, and it's there's no way to prove against it. There's no way to fight against it, and that is why it is the genius of this circular logic that they have that traps people. Like I would say, lower IQ people or people who are not awake or realizing the truth. That it traps them in that mindset, and it's unfortunate, but it's effective at the same time.
I mean, you have this party, the Democrat Party, that's supposedly for civil rights and looks at Black people without the racist lens that the conservatives allegedly do. Yet they sit there and argue emphatically yelling at the top of their lungs. Just that's what they do. They get their base angry. That's how they win. Someone gets killed and they use that. They use it to win elections. They're happy. They use tragedy as an opportunity to win. They use, so they're out there galvanizing minorities, Hispanics, and Black people to believe that the Republicans are racist and want to drag us back to the days of Jim Crow by enforcing voter ID law. I mean, and then you have there's a video of a man in the street, this reporter conducting a man on the street interviews, asking people, well, do you think it's racist if you have to show your ID to vote? And they're like, no, I show my ID to go everywhere. It's such an elementary argument, yet the Democrats have got so many people. You have to break it down to my liberal friends. It's not racist to show your ID to vote because they're so inundated with this propaganda. And the fact is, if your heart's in the right place and you're searching for truth, you're going to find it. You're going to look in history books. You're going to start watching the news. You're going to wake up. And that is what the Democrats are afraid of. That's the problem. If people don't stay ignorant, they're going to, and they're willing to have fresh eyes and listen to when the president speaks, or tune in racist Fox News and listen to racist special report with Brett Baer, which is all fact-based for the most part, then they're going to wake up. And the Democrats are going to lose power. What will the planet and the United States look like then? I have no idea because it's never happened yet, but it can happen.
Yeah, and another thing that they do is through incentives, the welfare programs, the other social monetary programs that they if they can't win your vote over with their lies and propaganda, they'll hand money out in order to ensure those votes. And it's an ugly system that we're trapped in. But Alicia, I want to make sure we cover this in the last 5 minutes we have. This whole thing with Kanye West supporting President Trump. Obviously, these people can't take any dissension amongst the ranks. Why does the left feel the need to attack his mental health at the as soon as he comes out and says that he supports the president?
Oh, trust me, I'm sure they're looking for some women to go and say he raped them too. Mm-hmm. I'm sure they're looking because that's what you can do. I've experienced that myself. Oh, she's brainwashed. She's crazy. Someone brainwashed her. I came from being a liberal and actually going to leftist protests, anti-police protests, when I was 17, 18 years old. And when I woke up to the truth, I thought it would resonate with people automatically. I thought, listen, oh my gosh, I just read chapter after chapter and all these documentaries about the Democrat Party's racism, and they're lying to us, guys. Well, I was not perceived well by the people who I love and know the most. So basically, they have to castigate Kanye West. If you have hip hop, which I would argue is the most powerful force on earth. There's people I've met from Morocco. There's people I've met from all around the world, and they might not speak English, but they know Tupac's lyrics. They know Kanye West, and that's all the English they know is the lyrics of their song. So that's how powerful hip hop is. And if Kanye West used this hip hop music is inherently conservative, right? It's inherently capitalistic. So start rhyming about the truth and start creating music that's pro-American and not glorifying gangsters and prostitution and drugs and all the things that hip-hop has become, which it didn't start as. So the left is going to destroy Kanye West. Perhaps. I don't know. We've never witnessed this before. Will his family, will the Kardashians abandon him?
No, they were sticking up for him.
They're sticking up for him thus far. And the ramifications of that are tremendous because when's the last time the United States, the Hollywood and the culture in the United States is pro-American? You think back maybe to some parts of during the World War II or sometime during the 1940s, but Hollywood's always been infiltrated by communism. So if we have Hollywood wake up, and the fact is you might not watch the news, you might not really study politics. You might hate politics, but we love movies. We love music. That's what speaks most to the human spirit. And I think that the GOP just needs to seize the day on this every day. We need to aggressively even go to the projects with surrogates like Kanye or Nas and talk to the people who have the highest incarceration rates in the country, who have the highest dependency on welfare and food stamps, who have thought a single parent household and high rates of abortion. All of these things are because of the feminist movement that so-called helps women. All of these things because of the leftist version of the civil rights movement, LBJ's Great Society, which is basically developed housing projects as a form of segregation. And he's like, what's going to happen next? We'll find out.
Alicia,
it's been a good week to see conservative people who look a certain way promoting a message that we have seldom seen happen in the news cycle.
Yeah, and we'll take it any way we can get it, because it's so far and few between, it seems. And I want to ask you this, though, in the last few minutes, and I don't have the specifics in front of me. I didn't plan on talking about this, but President Trump instituted and talked about some work requirements for people receiving certain benefits. Do you think this is a good idea? What he wants to do with the imposing some sort of minimal standards for people receiving benefits, whether it's welfare or food stamps or whatever that might look like?
Absolutely. So welfare is made to be a safety net, not a way of life for your entire life, where actually people were abusing the welfare system and having more kids in single parent households just to get more welfare checks. You see videos that have gone viral of women in the ghetto claiming that they just want to get their welfare check. People innately want to fulfill their dreams while they're here on earth, and you're not going to do that if you're sitting waiting for a $400 or $500 check living in the project. And so if you're going to go out and work, at least that's the first step to not only having personal responsibility, but achieving your dreams in this society where it doesn't matter what race you are. And I said it way before President Obama was elected. You can socially mobilize in this country. You can achieve your dreams more here than anywhere else in the world. The amount of freedom we have to create the highest vision of ourselves in the United States is unprecedented. And the United States we've accomplished this in just 237 odd years because 230 some odd years because we have freedom of religion, we have freedom of thought, essentially. And that's what the left is trying to hijack and censor on Facebook. And now we have this one superstar rapper who they are so scared of because he threatens their monolithic black voting bloc.
And there it is.
To achieve their dreams. People can achieve their dreams.
Alicia Powe, you were on fire. I cannot wait to listen to this again, to watch this again, this segment. Folks, it'll be a standalone segment tomorrow. Thank you, Alicia, for everything you do. A voice of reason, a voice of sanity in an otherwise insane environment. Thank you so very much.
I look forward to seeing you again soon.
All right. And folks, follow Alicia Powe on Twitter and support her efforts. We're going to be right back. Network break coming up. Craig Sawyer.